Hey, liberal fruitcakes. Judges and constitutional solutions. Let's talk about it. I decided to do this video in response to a couple of messages I received on this app and other social media. Now, the comments I received were in regards to my opinion that it is unconstitutional for district judges or lower court judges to impose national injunctions to prevent the executive branch from carrying out policy. Now, I've said this in 3 separate videos, and I don't know why so many people are not getting the message clearly. You want checks and balances. I understand that. That is super important. But that should be done at the head of the 3 branches of government: the president, the Supreme Court, and Congress. That's how we have federal checks and balances, not from lower court judges. Why? Because as stated in the 3 videos I've talked about this, there are 677 district judges in the United States of America, none of which were federally elected in a national election to be President of the United States or voted to be Congress. Neither were the 677 judges sworn into the Supreme Court, the head of the judicial branch. So let's just use an analogy here, because I love analogies. They're always great. Take the United States as the umbrella corporation, or the parent corporation. Within that parent corporation, or umbrella corporation, there are 3 separate businesses. Business 1, Congress. Business 2, the executive branch. And business 3, the judicial branch. These are all owned by the umbrella corporation, or the parent corporation. Now, at the head of each corporation sit members of the board, which there are only 3 seats on this board. Congress takes up 1 seat. The President of the United States takes up the 2nd seat. And the Supreme Court takes up the 3rd seat. In order for Congress to influence the President of the United States or the Supreme Court, they have to get a majority vote within their business in order to be able to influence policy against the executive branch, the President, and the judicial branch, the Supreme Court. Now, the same holds true for the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court gets 1 vote, where a majority agreement must be made in order to be able to influence Congress or the President. Now, the President has 1 vote, which is why he can veto policies from Congress unless a larger majority is made, and he has certain powers given to him by the entire corporation, which is bound under the Constitution, in order to be able to enforce his policies, of which he was voted on by the American people in a majority vote to carry out those policies, of which Congress and the Supreme Court can determine whether he's acting outside the realms of his constitutional duties. But when a lower court justice, like a district judge, places a national injunction and is not acting in the scope of their practice, which would be their district or their state, it is the equivalent of an employee telling the CEO of another company what they can and cannot do. Which is why I really hope that Congress moves forward with the 2 proposed bills that have gone into Congress for votes. The first one is more simple with the current issue of national injunctions. H.R. 2274, the Court Shopping Deterrence Act. This would amend Title 28 of the U.S. Code regarding appeals. It would establish that if a national injunction is imposed, when it is appealed, it would go straight to the Supreme Court, the head of the judicial branch. I like this one. I think it's great. And it is a simple and elegant solution that would address many concerns that people have. Now, the one I really want to have happen, because I believe it is the more constitutional solution, is H.R. 1526, the No Rogue Rulings Act. This has already passed the House, and this bill quite simply seeks to prohibit district judges from imposing national injunctions. Why? Because in matters of state sovereignty, national injunctions at a district level imposes burdens on state sovereignty and is beyond the scope of practice for district judges. I think this is the better bill, and I think you should think that too. Why? Because that is true constitutional checks and balances. Because other states may disagree with that district judge, who again is not the Supreme Court, and the heads of those branches of government checking each other. And let the state judicial system and the state congressional system operate at a state level, air grievances to the federal government on behalf of their own state, not the nation. And let's not even remotely pretend that if we flip to the script this was a Republican judge posing a national injunction against a Democratic president, you'd all be freaking out. Have a good day!